And then let's see. All right, let me move this out of my way here. Alrighty, so on these graphs, I'm probably just going to punch them on my calculators. Quickest way for us to knock these out. So this is the absolute value graph, and remember, absolute value graphs are V's like this. So on this graph, we want to go to y equals. I'll clear that out. First thing you got to do is get absolute value. So two ways to get absolute value. First way is you can hit second and the 0 to get the catalog. And ABS is the first thing you got. So you would hit enter on that, and it brings up your absolute value. Second way is to go through the math. Let's see if you hit math and you arrow over to number. The first thing it has is the absolute value. So either way on that, okay? So I'm going to go back to y equals. And on the inside, it's got what? 3 minus x. Now, if you notice, their graph is going 10 by 10 like we need. So I'm just going to hit graph and see what we get. So y'all, if you notice, oh, let me get my graph back. Let me zoom 6 to get it back to a 10 by 10. So if you go to standard graph, it'll put it back on a 10 by 10 just like theirs. So notice the only one I could pick would be C right here. And what that did, it just shifted me over to the right a little bit. All right, number 2, find a function value. So they want me to put zeros in for these x's and see what I get. So we're basically going to find f of 0. So that would be a 0 squared minus 3 times 0 plus 2. Okay, so they're just telling me what number to put in for my x's. Well, 0 squared is 0, minus 3 times 0 is 0, and plus 2. And if you add all that up, you get a positive 2, which would be our B. Okay, so this is going to be multiple choice, so you got to get one of these answers. If not, go back and see if you made a mistake on your work, okay? All right, remember now, this one says, is the graph a function? Well, what you do on these kind of graphs is you take a vertical line and run it left to right over your graph. So notice I'm hitting the graph, but it's only intersecting it once everywhere I go. So since this vertical line only intersects that graph once everywhere I go, this is yes, definitely a function. Okay? And we've been playing with these parabolas all year, so they got to be functions, right? All right, let me pull this down a little bit. They want me to solve this, so let me zoom in a little bit so y'all can see that a little better. So I got 4x plus 5y plus z equals negative 33. 5x minus 4y minus z equals negative 15. And then 5x plus y plus 2z equals negative 24. I'm going to work this by hand, and I'm going to work it on the calculator, because remember, I can use the matrix on the calculator to work that also. So let me write these numbers down. 4x plus 5y plus z equals negative 33. 5x minus 4y minus z equaled negative 15. And then I had a 5x plus a y plus 2z equaled negative 24. So let me bring that up now where I was at. So remember, on these problems, I got to try to get rid of one of these letters. So the easiest letter to get rid of for me would be the z's right here. I'm going to get rid of the z's. The first time, I'm going to add row, I'll call this row 1, 2, and 3. So the first time I'm going to add the first 2 rows. So add row 1 and row 2. And that's going to get rid of the z's here. So 4x plus 5y plus z equals negative 33. 5x minus 4y minus z equals negative 15. So remember, I'll add them and I'll call that my fourth equation when I add these. So we got 4 plus 5 give me 9x. 5y negative 4y leave me 1y. The z's cancel. And over here, that's going to be what, a negative, that's an 8. So that's a negative 48. But we're happy we got rid of the z's. Now, we got to use the last row and add to one of these 2 rows to get rid of the z again. Because remember, I need 2 equations. I need a 4 and a 5 to get rid of the next letter. So what I'm going to do, since this z is negative here, I'm going to multiply this whole row by a 2. That'll turn that into a negative 2z. That way when I add them, they will cancel. So here we go. We're going to add row 2 after multiplying by 2 to row 3. So all 3 rows got to be used in whatever combination it takes, but you got to use all 3 rows, okay? So I'm going to multiply this by 2. So I got 10x's minus 8y minus 2z equals negative, what's that, 15 and 2 is 30. Now bring down this row, 5x plus y plus 2z equals negative 24. So see what's going to happen. We got a 10 and 5, give me 15 x's. Negative 8 and 1y give you negative 7y. The z's cancel like I needed. And then that's going to be, what, a negative 54. So this will be row 5 now. So now what we got to do is take row 4 and 5 and set them up as in a system again. And then that was 15x minus 7y equal negative 54. So this was row 4 and row 5. Now we got to figure out what letter we can get rid of. And y'all, I'm going to pick the y's this time, because I can change this row by multiplying everybody by 7, and then a 7 and a negative 7 will cancel. It'd be hard to get rid of the x's because you got a 15 and a 9, and you would have to try to find some kind of number they both went into. So what I'm going to do is multiply row 4 by 7 and add to row 5. Whoops, I should make that an IB. Okay, so multiply this row by 7. So 7 times 9 will give you 63 x's. 7 times y is 7y. And woo, that negative 48 times 7 is a negative 336. Then bring down your 15x minus 7y equals negative 54. So doing what we said over here, multiply row 4 by 7. Once you do that, add to row 5. Watch what we get. Ooh, that's what? 78 x's. The y's cancel. And then negative 336 minus 54 is a negative 390. Now, I've got one equation with one variable, so I'm going to divide both sides by 78 and see what I get, and I get a negative 5. So x equals negative 5. So y'all, now that I know that x is negative 5, I can come up into one of these equations and solve it for the y. So I'm going to back substitute. So since x is -5, I'm going to do 9 times -5 plus my y has to equal -48. Now you could have used either one of these. I picked number 4 because it had smaller numbers to me. All right, y'all, 9 times -5 is -45 plus y equals -48. And then to get to y by itself, we add 45. And I now know that the y is, what's that going to give me? A -3. So I now know x is -5, y is -3. So I can go back into one of my original 3 equations up here and plug 2 numbers in and get the other one, okay? So I think what I'll do, I'm going to use this first equation, 4x, but I know x is -5, plus 5 times y, but I know y was -3, plus z equals -33. So I just went with the first equation and plugged these 2 numbers in. So 4 times -5 is a -20. 5 times -3 is a -15, plus z equals -33. So let's see, we would want to add like terms next. So a -20 and -15 give you -35, plus z equals -33. And remember my last step, add that 35 to both sides. Ooh, I'm running out of room, but let's see. -33 positive 35 makes my z equal 2. So down here, when I write my final answer, it's got to be in parentheses. -5 was the x, it goes first. -3 was the y, it goes second. And then 2 was the z, it went first. So on your test, you would want, what did I just say? 5, -3. I had -5, -3, and 2, which would have been C on that one, okay? But y'all, if you don't like doing that, watch what I'm about to do on this calculator. I'm gonna clear all that. I'm gonna make this a matrix. So I'm gonna get the matrix, you hit second, x -1. And we want to go to edit because we want to make our matrix. So on edit, I'm just going to hit enter. I got 3 rows by 4 columns. So that's what this is, and mine already has a 3 and a 4 because I've been using it in class. Now, I'm just going to punch every number. No letters, just the numbers. So 4 enter, 5 enter, 1 enter for the z, and then -33. When I enter, it's going to go to the next row. I got a 5, -4, -1, -15. When I hit enter, it's going to go to the last row. I got a 5, 1, 2, and that's what, a -24. When I hit enter, I've got all my numbers in, so now I quit that by hitting second mode. So this calculator now thinks that my matrix A is this matrix right here. So to solve it, here's what we do. We hit second, x -1. We go to math. When you get on math, you're going to arrow down until you find RREF. RREF is the reduced row echelon form. Hit enter. It brings it on the screen. Now go back and get to matrix by hitting second, x -1. And since we put matrix A was our 3 by 4 matrix, we just hit enter on that. So notice, I hit that second x -1 button 3 times The first time to edit my matrix, second time to get the RREF, and then the third time to get that matrix back. So let's hit enter and see what the right side of this gives me. So there we go. X is the -5, Y is the -3, and Z is the +2. So y'all, either way on that one, okay? All right, let's see what I got here. They want me to find the range of this problem. The range is the Y values. Okay, it's not the X's, it's the Y values. And the Y values go up and down on the Y axis, right? So what's this lowest value on the range? That looks like that's at a -2. So remember, they would start with the brackets, and it's got a -2. And from -2, you go up that y-axis until you get to this point, which is the highest point, and you want to see what the y value is for it. And if you go left, it looks like it's at 3. So my range is going from -2 to 3 on the y-axis in brackets. Remember, the range does include those points, so the range will always have the brackets unless you're looking at the infinity stuff. Okay, so they're going to put domain answers up here, but you don't want the domain. You want the range, which is the y values. All right, y'all, this one I'll probably do on paper because I'm going to have to solve that before I can graph it. So let me write this down. It is a 4x minus 9y is greater than -1. So what I'm going to do is graph it by solving this first and then plotting it on my calculator, okay? And you don't have to worry about, it's going to give you 4 pictures to choose from, so you ain't got to worry about trying to paint it and all that on the math lab. So if we're going to solve this, we need to move the x's over here. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides so that -9y is greater. And I'm just going to put them in order. -4x minus 1. They're not like terms, so we can't add them. So I'm just doing y mx plus b type stuff, okay? Now, I need to make that a 1y instead of a -9y. So we got to divide everybody by -9. And since I'm dividing by -9, this greater than will now be a less than. So reverse the inequality. Since we divided by negative. All right, so -9 divided by -9 makes that a y, is now less than. Negative divided by negative makes that a +4/9 x. And then a negative divided by negative makes that a +1/9. So easiest thing, go to y equals, hit clear, and we'll put in 4 divided by 9, then the x, plus 1 divided by 9. Now remember, I need to shade this. So since that's less than, let's see, greater than, you would use the triangle that looks like it's above. Less than, we're looking for the triangle that looks like it's below. So arrow all the way left until you're blinking on the left side. So see, I'm blinking on the left side over there, on the left side of Y1. I'm going to hit enter until I got the bottom triangle. So there's the greater than. So I did it on the wrong side. It should have been on the other side. But when I hit enter again, I get the less than, which is the bottom triangle. Hit enter on that. Now, whoops, did I switch? Not hit enter, my bad. Let me go back. Okay, there's my bottom one. Hit graph. So y'all, when we hit graph, we should get one of these 4 pictures here. Now be careful. This one's shaded above. This one's going downhill instead of uphill. So you better be careful and go with D on that one, okay? All right, next one's a little tricky. We got a ladder resting on a wall. Top of the ladder touches the wall. What's that, 18 feet? Find the length of the ladder if the length is 6 more than a distance from the wall. So let's draw this picture. So I've got me a wall here, and my ladder's leaning up against it. It told me the ladder touched the wall at a height of 18 feet. So I know this side over here is 18 feet going up that wall right there, okay? Now, I don't know the length of the ladder. I don't know the distance from the wall, but I do know that this ladder is 6 feet more than this distance. So I don't know this distance. I'm just going to call it X, and the ladder will be distance plus 6. Okay, so what we basically got is another right triangle here, which means we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem, which says a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now, these two sides, it don't matter who's a and b, but this side has to be c, because remember, it's the side across from the 90-degree angle that we call the hypotenuse, okay? So this can be a and that can be b. So I'll have x squared plus 18 squared will equal x plus 6 squared. So now we're solving this for the x, which will give me this distance, and then add 6 to get that ladder, okay? So let's solve it. X squared I can't do nothing with. 18 squared, let's see, 18 times 18 is 324. That's going to equal x plus 6 squared, so let's multiply that out. So remember, anytime you got parentheses with an exponent, write it twice in FOIL. So you get an x squared plus 6x, and then you get another 6x, and then 6 times 6 is 36. So that, add like terms, is an x squared plus 12x plus 36. I'll now replace this with that. X squared plus 12x plus 36. So now, since I got these x squared terms, I need everything on one side, right? But watch what happens when I move my x squareds. The x squareds cancel everywhere. These cancel and those cancel. So all that's left is 324 equals 12x plus 36. Also, what's going to happen, since I don't have those x squared terms, all I got to do is get the x by itself. So let's start by subtracting 36. So 324 minus 36 gives me 288, equal to my 12x. And then finally divide by that 12. So that 228 divided by 12 is going to give me 24 equal to my x. But y'all be careful. This didn't want to know how far the ladder was from the wall. This question wanted to know, find the length of the ladder. Well, the ladder is at x plus 6. So the ladder is 24 plus 6, which will give me 30. What kills a lot of people is they stop at the 24 and they don't go back and add 6 to it. And they'll have 24 for an answer, but that's wrong. We need 30 feet, okay? So that's the trick on that one, is just to sort of set it up and use that Pythagorean theorem. Just remember, C has to be the long side, okay? All right,
Can
so
you
this
go
one
back
says,
to right
yeah,
what you used at the end
that one.
of number 7? Yes.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna try to.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. All righty, so go to the next one, number 8 says find the domain. So let me zoom in just a little. Find a domain. To find a domain, we're only worried about the bottom of a fraction. So what I did on these parts, I took the x squared plus 4x, and we said it could not equal 0. All right, since you got x's in every term, the easiest way to solve this problem is to factor. So what you would do, since they both have an x's, you would factor the x out like a greatest common factor. Inside parentheses, you would put both these terms minus an x. So since this one had 2 x's, you took one out, that's going to leave you 1x, plus you had 4x here and took an x out, that's going to leave you a 4. All this is still not equal to 0. All right, so you always want to factor stuff out when you got a letter in every single one of these, okay? So now you would set both these not equal to 0. So this one's done, so I know it cannot be 0 for sure. And then this one, to solve it, you would subtract 4. And this one says x cannot equal a negative 4. So I need one of these that excludes my 0 and excludes my negative 4. So you remember, you would start at negative infinity until you hit negative 4, union, negative 4 to the 0, union 0 to positive infinity. So that would look like A here. Okay. So this one, they got the 2 numbers, but be careful. There's a lot of numbers in between negative 4 and 0 that actually work. So you got to be careful and pick the one that's got the unions around each of these numbers, okay? All right, so that is not bad. Just remember, domains, you're only worried about the denominator of that fraction. Don't even worry about the top. All righty, let me pull this up. For the function, construct and simplify the difference quotient. And they're giving us the formula, f of x plus h minus f of x over h. They're giving us the f of x part that I can put in. What I need to do is find what f of x plus h is going to equal. Once I know what that equals, I can put it into my formula and see what I get. So y'all, I'm going to work this on this other page here because it's going to be a little longer. So f of x they gave me was 4x squared plus 9x. So I'm finding f of x plus h, which means where they got an x, we're going to put an x plus h. So that's how you find f of x plus h, is by putting those x plus h's in for those x's they got. Now, I would bring down to 4. X plus h squared would be x plus h times x plus h. And every time we have FOILed this out, we have ended up with an x squared plus 2hx's plus h squared. X times x is the x squared, x times h, and then h times x, that's where you get the 2hx's at, and then the h times h is the h squared. So that goes here. Then you got your 9 times x plus h. So the next thing I'm going to do is distribute this 4 and this 9. So I get 4x squared plus 4 times 2 is 8hx. 4 times h squared is a 4h squared, plus 9 times x is 9x, plus 9 times h is 9h. And guess what? None of these are like terms, so this is all f of x plus h. So your formula was f of x plus h minus f of x, all that divided by h. So we put this in for the f of x plus h. F of x they gave me was 4x squared plus 9x. But remember, if you did this right, everything in this parentheses is going to cancel with the stuff in this parenthesis that looks the same. You see that 4x squared? There's a positive 4x squared, so they're going to cancel. That makes that a negative 9x. Here's a positive 9x, so that 9x is going to cancel with that 9x. So the second parenthesis is gone. All that's left is your 8hx plus your 4h squared plus your 9h. All of that divided by h. Now, since everything had h's left, we now got to cancel one h out of everybody. So if you cancel that h, you get an 8x plus 4h squared divided by h cancels one of the h's and leaves you with a 4h. And then 9h, when you cancel a h, leaves you with a 9. Okay, so look at that. 8x plus 4h plus 9 would have been a for us. Now be careful, they change these numbers up a little bit to throw you curveballs, and this one, they squared it and added extra x's, it looks like, okay? So just be careful and see what you got canceling on those. All right, so let me let y'all catch that up a second. If you're taking business calculus, know this formula, okay? Well, you don't have to know it, they'll give it to you, but know how to do it. All right, moving on. This next one says graph the function f of x equals the square root x plus 5. So to graph that, and now notice, they're going out 20 on this, so I'm going to show y'all how to set the window on the calculator to do these 20s so your graph will look just like it. So I'm going to go to y equals, and whoops, y equals, clear that. So the square root, there's a square root right on front of your calculator, so hit the blue button and the x squared button to get the radical. And then underneath is the x plus 5. Now, I'm not going to graph it until I set my window. So I'm going to set the window so that my y values have the negative 20, 20, and my x values go from negative 20 to 20. So hit that window button. So y minimum will be negative 20, y max will be 20, and then go down to the y minimum, negative 20, and the y max, positive 20. By doing that, I can guarantee that my graph will look like one of these 4, okay? Then if I ever want to get it set back, remember I can hit zoom 6, which will be the standard. So hit enter on that graph. We know what's going to happen. Since that's a positive 5 attacking the x, it should move it left. And the only one that moved left was A. Looks like B moved right, C moved up, and D, somehow they flipped it, okay? So not bad, just, now, like I said, if you wanted to fix the window back, hit zoom 6, and it goes back to a 10 by 10, okay? which is a similar graph. It's just not as small looking because we're not going out 20. All right, this problem I hope y'all do good on. That's a maximum because it's a peak. That's a minimum because it's a valley. So this is a maximum of 1, and it happens at 0 on the x's. So I want a maximum of 1 at x equals 0. And then let's see what this one is. This y here is at -3. So it's got a minimum of -3 at x equals 2. So let's see. That's a maximum of -3. That's wrong. Maximum of 1 at x equals 0. Minimum of -3 at x equals 2. We need D. Okay? But y'all, when you got a point being highlighted as a max and a point highlighted as a minimum, this none stuff can't be true, right? There's no way it could be a none there. And I seen another none somewhere, I thought. And that one said none. So those two, throw them out. It's got to be between C and D on that, okay? All right, let me zoom in so we can read that in a little better. How can the graph of f of x equals negative x minus 1 squared plus 3 be obtained from the graph of y equals x squared? Well, since I'm attacking the x, that moves me left and right. And we always said when it was negative, it moved right. So this is going to move right 1 unit. This plus 3 at the end is going to move me up, because remember, that's either down or up. Since it's positive, it's going to move up 3 units. So that takes care of the move up. And then that negative is going to reflect me across the x. When we was doing these functions, we didn't even reflect across the y-axis. So if you see a y-axis here, you might as well get rid of them two answers. It's got to be A or C, right? So let's see, we went right 1 unit. This one says 1 unit right. Reflect across the x, we said, and then shifted 3 units up, and we went up 3, so I'm going to go with A. The other one was 1 unit to the left, so they didn't account for the signs on that, okay? Everything else is the same. So just remember, when you're in the parentheses, that sign is opposite than the way you think you're going to go. Negatives move right, positives move left. All right, y'all, next one. Find the zeros of the function. Well, you see all these answers got a radical in them, so I'm pretty sure we're going to knock this out with the quadratic formula, which says x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. All of that was over 2 times a. So now what I'll do, put my numbers in. So B is in the middle, that's 11. So that's going to be 11 and 11. A is the first number, which is a 2 and a 2. And then C is the last number, which is 3. Now, if you were able to get my programs in your calculator, this problem will knock out really quick. And I'll show you in a second. So let's see, that's going to make that a -11. But y'all look at that. 3 answers got -11. So the only one I know ain't going to be right is C at the moment. All right, under this radical, 11 times 11 is 121. Minus, there's only one negative over here. So let's see, 4 times 2 is 8, times 3 is 24. All of that's over. 2 times 2 on the bottom, which is 4. Well, I'm getting closer because there's a 4 on bottom and there's a 4 on bottom. So I think it's going to be one of them too because I got a negative 11 out front. So let's see what ends up under my radical. What is 121 minus 24? That's going to give me a square root of a 97 underneath over 4. And y'all, at this point, I cannot simplify that 97 because it don't have any perfect square root factors. So that would be my final answer. And guess what? I see that over here at A. So be careful, but as you're working through it, you'll start seeing numbers get eliminated. Like I knew it couldn't be a positive 11. And then once I got a little further, I knew it wasn't going to be a 2 on the bottom. So then I had one choice left, and that's what it ended up being, okay? All right, let's see. 14, find the vertex. So to find the vertex, it's going to look like an ordered pair. You're going to figure out what negative b over 2a equals, and then what f of negative b over 2a equals. So you're going to find the x value, plug it back in, and get a y value, okay? So a will be 4, b will be negative 24, and c will be 3. So let's plug out for the x. We're going to do negative b over 2a, which is negative 24. So if your b is negative, that negative is going to change it to a positive. And then on the bottom is 2 times a, which was a 4. So you always had a negative times negative makes that a positive 24. 2 times 4 is 8. And then 24 divided by 8 gives me a 3. So the x value is 3. Well, at that point, I know there's only one answer I can pick that's got an x value of 3. That's got negative 33, that's got negative 3, and that's got positive 33. So I know the x will be 3. So when I'm done, my y value better be what? Negative 33. And to find that y value, I find f of 3. Put a 3 in here. 4 times 3 squared minus 24 times 3 plus 3. So let's see what that gives us. 4 times 3 squared minus 24 times 3 plus 3. Y'all look at that. Gives me a negative 33. So my point was 3, negative 33, which was B. But y'all, what I like about that problem, once you go through the negative b over 2a, you've pretty much got the answer. You're just verifying it by doing the y part, okay? All right, what's next? 15. All right, so 15, we're not worried about the numbers that don't have variables. So since 5 don't have a variable by it, you don't have to worry about it. But what we do got to do is find out what zeros we get when we set x plus 7 equal to 0 and x minus 7 equal to 0. So the first one, I would subtract 7, you can get negative 7. And that one happens 2 times. So that means the multiplicity is going to be 2. This one, you'll get a positive 7. It happened 3 times. So it's got a multiplicity 3. So I need, oh, and they're trying to fool you with this 4. But we don't need that because it ain't got a variable. So we need one of these. Negative 7, multiplicity 3. Nope, I need negative 7, multiplicity 2. Positive 7, multiplicity 3, which what we had. So go with D. And then y'all, this one I'd probably just graph, and you see how their table's going from, ooh, what's that, negative negative 5 to 5, and negative 240 to 240. So let's see which one does that. So go to y equals, I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to punch in negative x times x plus 2, that was squared, times x minus, x minus 1, parentheses, and that was squared. Now, I'll graph it in a second, but let's see. We got a negative in the front, so it's a negative lead coefficient. And then I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because remember, these x's happen twice. So I got 5 x's. That'll give me an x to the 5th. So when I had an odd degree that was negative, it should go downhill left to right. So it's got to be A or B. And boy, I don't like that question. Boy, them are really, 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 I'm not seeing many differences on those. So let me set my window. So go to window. Notice my x's are going from, what's that, negative 6 to a 6. And then these y's are going from a negative 240 to a positive 240. So we should get one of their graphs. Okay. Now on the test, you'll probably have to zoom these up. So let me see. Oh, I can see it looks more like the A. That's coming down a little bit. So I'm just going to go with A. I'm going to go with A and keep on going. I think my test has a better problem on it than this one. The study guide, sometimes you get a question that's hard to see. But on MATLAB, it would let you zoom them in and look at them better. Okay. All right, what's next? So this one says, find the vertical asymptotes. So to find vertical asymptotes, I take the bottom and set them not equal to 0. Well, I mean equal to 0. So I would have x minus 9 equals 0 and x plus 6 equals 0. So they've done factored this one. Do not worry about the top on a vertical asymptote, only the bottom. So watch, add 9 to this one, and you get x equals 9. Subtract 6 from that one, you get x equals negative 6. They're going to try to fool you with the y's. You don't want y's, you want x's. So that's what? X equals 9, x equals negative 6. So I'm going to go with C on that one. Okay. Now this one they got from doing the top. We don't do the top, only the bottom. All right, these were the composition functions. So they want me to find g of f of 5, which means first you find f of 5. Once we get f of 5's answer, we put it into the g. So f of 5 will equal 9 times 5 minus 4, which is 45 minus 4, which will give me 41. Ooh, big number here, y'all. So second, since f of 5 equal to 41, we're going to find g of 41. Okay, so you find the f value first because it's on the right. Take that answer, put into the g. Woo, so this is 9 times 41 squared minus 4 times 41 minus 2. So I'm thinking one of these big numbers over here. So watch this. 9 parentheses 41 squared minus 4 times parentheses 41 minus 2. So hopefully we get one of them answers, and there it is. It is 14,963, which would be B. So boy, them exponents make these numbers get big quick, okay? Now, this problem is basically the same as that one, except they didn't give me a number for it. So what you would do on this one first is f of x. Well, guess what? They gave me f of x. That's a negative 3x plus 3. So since we can't do nothing with the f of x, this whole thing now goes into the g. Okay, so you're finding g of negative 3x plus 3, which means you got 4 times negative 3x plus 3 plus 9. So when you got g of f, you take the f equation basically and put it into the gx's. All right, so watch this. 4 times negative 3 is a negative 12x. 4 times 3 is a positive 12 plus 9. And the only thing I can do is add the like terms. So I get negative 12x. 12 plus 9 is 21. So negative 12x plus 21 would be RB. And I do like these having multiple choice, because then when you get to your answer, you can sort of see how they wanted them. And y'all don't have to make a mistake trying to punch it into that math lab. Whew, I've had to fix so many tests because of answers on that thing. All right, guess what? Do not put answer A on this. I don't care what version of test you got. Do not put version A. They're all going to be 1-to-1. Okay, which means you got to find the inverse. So to find the inverse, the first thing I did was replace f of x with a y. So I got y equals 4x plus 5. Then I switched the x and y around. So that gives me x equals 4y plus 5. And y'all, then it's just a matter of solving that. Solve that for the y. So the first thing you would do would be to minus the 5. So let's see, that gives me x minus 5 equals 4y. And then divide everybody by 4. So I get x minus 5 over 4 equals y. So at that point, I should be able to find one of these. And officially, my last step would be to replace the y with the f inverse of x notation. And then bring down my x minus 5 over 4. And they got that over here. I have x minus 5 over 4, so that would have been C. Okay, so if they were added, it's going to be subtracted over here. If they were multiplied, it's going to be divided. Now, the difference between this problem is somehow they didn't divide the 5 by the 4, and it has to be, since it was on this side, everything over here had to be divided by that 4, okay? All right, y'all, let's see. That puts me on 21. And this is just a graph, so I'd probably just knock this out on my f of x. I mean on my y equals. Now, remember when I graph this, I'm going to set my window back. I can't remember if I did or not. But that is, let's go to see what we got up here. I'm going to graph this. It's y equals 4 to the x plus 4 minus 3. So on my calculator, I got 4. Exponent x plus 4. Now, you don't have to use parentheses on that, but you do have to arrow back down and then put your minus 3. So new calculators, we didn't need parentheses. I was just doing that because people with the older calculators, you got to close your parentheses. Okay. Now, look here. They go from 0, what's that, -6 to 6. So go to window. So -6 to 6, that was good. So this one needs to go -6 to 6. because that one was sitting on them 240s a while ago. Hey, the window's right. Hit enter. And look, my little graph is on the bottom left and goes up. Looks like A, right? But remember, that +4, since it's attacking the X, moves it left. That -3 moves it down. So it started here, but it moved left and down. Okay? All right, this ain't bad. Convert to an exponential equation. 3 is the base. So you take the base, 3. The exponent is t. So 3 to the t is going to equal that result of 9. So let's see, 3 to the t equals 9 would be b. Okay, the base of the logarithm is the same as the base of the exponential equation. And remember, a logarithm finds an exponent, so that means the t has to be the exponent, and then 9 is the results, okay? All right, 23 says express in terms of sums and differences. If it's on top, it's positive. If it's on bottom, it's going to be negative. And we got to distribute to log to everybody. So I got a log x to the 5th plus log of a z. Those were on top, so they're both positive. Now the next one's going to be negative because this log, this y squared, is on the bottom. But y'all remember, I'm not done because these exponents have to come down to the front of each of their logs. So my final answer would be 5 log x plus log z. This one didn't have exponent to worry about. This one will be minus 2 log y. So let's see. Ooh, watch out too. Some of these, they got, looks like multiplication in here. We don't want that. So I want 5 log x plus log z minus 2 log y. So I want c. But y'all be very careful because that is a multiplication instead of a addition. Okay? So they get really tricky on this. Right, let's see. This one says the population increases according to, they're giving me this equation where t is measured in years. How many people would a country have after 1 year? Well, what they want me to do is replace that t with a 1 and then see what we get. So let's clear that. So we got 2,500,000. I think I got enough zeros. E, hit second ln to get that E. And then that's what? 0.05 times t, which we said was 1. So this was telling me what the population is after 1 year, okay? So let's hit enter. And I get 2,628,177. And I'm rounding to the nearest year. So that 77 is going to turn into a 78. So 2,628,178 is C on that one. So y'all, we wanted an easier one on here than y'all having to try to figure out the formula and stuff. So exponential formulas, just plug in for whatever we give you for the years in for that t, okay? And then just punch it on that calculator and go. Oh, y'all, then there was one. Solve the exponential equation. So I've got 2 to the 9 minus 3x equals 8. So on the exponential equation, if I can rewrite this number as this base to an exponent, I'm going to. So You can multiply 2 and get an 8. Watch this. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. So I did that 3 times, which means the exponent would be a 3. But now, since these bases match, anytime the bases match, that means these exponents have to be equal to each other. So 9 minus 3x has to equal 3. Okay? Now solve this. So what are we going to do first? Subtract 9. And I get negative 3x equals, what's that, negative 6. And then divide both sides by the negative 3 so that that x comes out. And then negative divided by negative makes that a positive 2. Okay? Which means I'm going to go with B. Now they try to put a negative one on there. And then 3 and 4. I'm not sure where they're getting all them numbers at, but no, that's the final. It'll be 25 of the same questions. Only thing I'm doing is changing numbers on these, okay? It'll be multiple choice. So if nothing else, check your answers and see if they're right on that, okay? So y'all got this. I'm going to stop my share. I thought I was going to stop my share. All righty, so. All righty, and then I guess I'll stop this recording.